managing uncertainty and stress. For my master's, I looked at some worry and anxiety literature that really focused on understanding our relationship to uncertainty. And as humans, we can have these tendencies, and this is without context, where we can experience uncertainty as really uncomfortable, particularly when there are themes of control involved. Maybe we're not feeling like we have power and control, and that we can interpret all uncertainty as inherently bad. So we might have that tendency, and it's just something to be aware of. When we're faced with uncertainty, we might sometimes try to seek certainty. And what I mean by that is there might be things we do or engage in that give us a sense of certainty. But the question is, are those behaviors, are those actions actually healing us? Are they helping us? So, for example, there were times where I'll talk to people about, okay, so you're checking the news once every hour, and you're feeling really overwhelmed by that. If you were, let's say, checking the news or whatever it is that you're checking on your kids, if you were checking that once every 3 hours, would you lose anything? Would you maybe feel a bit better? Are things going to drastically change? If something happened that you needed to know about, would someone likely get a hold of you? And so understanding kind of our relationship of how experiencing uncertainty drives our behaviors is important. So maybe it leads to us worrying. Um, uh, Again, we can experience worry as a way to problem solve, but understanding could we problem solve without that worry experience? And I'm not saying that to minimize worry or to say it's easy to stop worrying, but to understand our relationship to these things. And so our relationship to uncertainty can be something that drives our actions. And so you might be asking, well, what do we do with this, Alex? Well, one thing we can do, and everything we talk about, is usually easier said than done, is learning how to navigate uncertainty and accept it. And what I really mean by that is accepting uncertainty isn't saying we're okay with the situation. It's not saying that we agree with it. It's not saying that we want it, but it's saying rather than trying to fight this uncertainty, how can I acknowledge it? That this is where I'm at, this is what I'm feeling, this is where the circumstance is at. And rather than trying to kind of avoid uncertainty or change it, can I work to say, okay, this is where things are at, and then release that energy to focus on where I have more control? So can you then engage in problem solving? Is there something you can work on? Can you then direct some of that energy to focus on taking care of yourself? Can you use both? So again, understanding that maybe there's some things that you can problem solve, but maybe not the whole thing, and there's some things you can do to take care of yourself. And as it's possible, it's not always the circumstance. We might not all have the same abilities, but can you take a break from that uncertain situation? Unless it is right there immediately in front of you. And we're not saying that this is a commentary on things being how stressful they are. But if you can, even for moments, take time away from having that be in your mind or in your body, then that can give us a break. And that can be, again, nourishment and a step of self-care. And so to really drive this home, one exercise you can do is to really hone in on when you're feeling on feelings of uncertainty, when you're feeling like things are out of control, is to focus on where do you have control and acknowledging where there are things where maybe you can't have the level of control you want, where there are things that are outside of direct control. And so really focusing in on things like sleep, how we interact with people, how we interact with coworkers or family members or our kids or our neighbors, or people important in our community. Just understanding how can we really hone in and focus on those things, how we respond to ourselves. And related to that is this idea of influence. Well, we want to make sure that we're empowering ourselves and focusing in and investing in where we can have a sense of agency. So maybe it's increasing our sleep, maybe it's increasing our exercise, maybe it's increasing our compassion and how we interact with others. We also want to think about where we can have influence. So we might not be able to control what other people think of us, right? But we can control, as I was saying, how compassionate and kind we are and how we interact with other people. And that allows us to then maybe influence what other people think of us. And so understanding where is it that we might have influence can also help us manage these feelings of uncertainty and also help us empower ourselves. Okay. So this is another piece where, I'd have you think about really where is it that you have control? Where is it that you can empower yourself? And where is it that you can influence things?